name. It didn't really have a sense that it could ever be anything other than local. The Sex Pistols coming up those 2 times completely shattered all that and made everything intimate and close and doable.
Those gigs galvanised Manchester musicians, or wannabe musicians. People came out of the woodwork. Closet Stooges fans, rabid Captain Beefheart fans began to touch base with one another and start making their own groups.
In hindsight, they turned out to be Joy Division, they turned out to be The Fall, they turned out to be Morrissey, and turned out to be all sorts of interesting kind of Manchester groups that at the time didn't think that they had it in them to be musicians, to be a group.
So everybody went to the gig, but I did, so fucking what?
Psycho!
Well, we got involved in this Northwest Arts thing. It was like a musicians collective. It was like brass bands and bird noises. There's a fella did symphonies out of bird noises.
Anybody could get up and do a performance, so it really suited what the Fall were about at that time.
So we thought we'd just do what we were doing in the bedroom, like reading out poetry over a bass and a guitar. Then you got a drummer and it's kicked off,
Lock that jet head, come head, lock that jet head.
After the Sex Pistols gig, there was lots of strange things happening in odd basement clubs in Manchester. Obviously the Buzzcocks had started up, and if you went to see Buzzcocks, there would be interesting support groups that had also come about at the same time.
Well, that was a big break, Richard Boone offering us support to the Buzzcocks, because that's when we started doing sort of regular gigs.
They were startling. They had the thrift store styling, totally anti-fashion, with the threadbare sweaters and the awful shirts. They were totally a garage band, and they obviously had it.
Incredibly exciting if you knew your Iggy Pop and you knew your Can and you knew your Captain Beefheart, because it seemed to have the same thing going on, this crunching together of strange rhythms and odd shafts of sound just sort of cutting against it like bits of glass, and a really peculiar guy at the front ranting away.
Everything I read, I used to believe everything I read, but that's all times, but now I'm stepping out.
Once Spiral Scratch had been released and we'd been working with The Fall on a live, occasional basis, I thought it was important that their work was recorded too.
Yeah. Well, actually, you've got to say this. The Buzzcocks paid for our first recording. God bless them.
I would have loved to put it out myself, but things around Buzzcocks got commercially chaotic and I was distracted, so I gave them the tapes.
Good evening, welcome to What's On for World Cup Plus.
I think Richard must have mentioned the band to me. I certainly remember getting a copy of Bingo Master's Breakout, thinking, this sounds bloody weird, this sounds like part of The Explosion. And I remember taking a film crew up to a basement in a house in North Manchester in Prestwich.
Music is offensive to a lot of people, and coming from the north, you've got this inoffensive, cap-touching attitude, which we're trying to break out of.
I always think it was more attitude than music. I think that's what the Fall brought to Manchester, and again, they brought this great oppositional thing, which is they loathed wankers like me from South Manchester, and Marky epitomised that.
You see, it's more than just the songs you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, it is more than the songs. I mean, the music is secondary, really. The music scene does not communicate to people. We try to. That's where we fall down.
To this day, I always say I'm not quite sure whether I like the Fall's music, but I like the Fall. I mean, just just a song called Ya Ya Industrial Estate, fantastic.
Originally, I thought, and I think everybody else would agree with this, that we were just all equal members of a band.
Do you not get tired of being poor though, lads? When you
dead tired. Yeah, to not make a living out of it is...
And you don't make a living out of it, do you, at present?
No.
Please give us some money.
I think as the Fall evolved, it emerged as Mark as very definitely, the voice of the Fall.
It was a solo act, but it was a solo act that needed everybody around him. So it had a kind of weird dynamic that he couldn't have done it on